For decades, humanity has been staring up at the sky. We are terrified of giant asteroids, alien invasions, or some Hollywood doomsday scenario falling from the stars. But we have been looking in the completely wrong direction. The real planetary kill switch isn't in space. It is hiding right now, deep in the darkest, coldest trenches of the ocean, and it is failing. The geography of human civilization, as we know it, is about to be erased. The clock isn't just ticking, it is practically out of time. A global climate collapse is already knocking at the door. But the crazy part? The weapon destroying this underwater behemoth isn't a nuclear bomb or a massive tectonic rupture. It is a silent, invisible poison bleeding into the water right this second, and almost nobody saw it coming. Deep beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean, a colossal beast is working in the dark. Scientists call it the AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. But that is just a clinical name for something much more terrifying. In reality, it is the beating heart of planet Earth. Imagine a relentless, unstoppable underwater conveyor belt. It drags warm, tropical water from the equator and forces it up to the freezing north. As this water cools, it gets dense and heavy, plunging like a stone into the abyssal trenches before sweeping back south. This raw power regulates the temperature of our entire world. It keeps Europe from freezing over, dictates global rainfall, and holds the chaotic forces of our atmosphere in a delicate, fragile balance. But right now, this colossal heartbeat is slowing down, and it is suffocating. The weapon destroying it is hiding in plain sight. Up in Greenland, massive amounts of ice are melting at a record-breaking pace. But this isn't just ice turning into water. It is an invisible poison. Millions of gallons of pure, freezing fresh water are bleeding into the salty Atlantic Ocean every single second. Because fresh water is lighter, it doesn't sink. Instead, it spreads like a toxic film across the surface, wrapping around the AMOC and choking the engine. The heavy, salty water can no longer drop to the bottom. The conveyor belt is grinding to a halt. The planetary heart is starting to skip a beat. If this massive engine stops, the fallout will reshape the world. Entire continents will be engulfed by extreme weather, and the geography of survival will be erased. But the most disturbing part of this unfolding catastrophe isn't just that the heart is failing. It's that we knew exactly when a breaking point would hit. The experts have been screaming about this imminent collapse for years, but they were about to be forcefully silenced by the one thing more powerful than the laws of physics. For decades, a brutal war has been fought behind closed doors. On one side, the brilliant minds and researchers of the IPCC. They have been staring at the data, watching the AMOC lose its raw power, and screaming that the system is fracturing. On the other side, the politicians and the corporate empires who systematically silence them. Why? Because acknowledging the monster means slowing down the global economy. It means putting human survival above quarterly profits. And in the relentless battle of science versus arrogance, profit almost always wins. But nature doesn't care about the stock market. The IPCC has warned the world about the tipping point, a terrifying, invisible threshold where the Earth's climate simply snaps. We are standing right on the edge of that cliff today. And here is the dark, heartbreaking truth. This is a point of absolutely no return. If the AMOC crosses that line, it doesn't matter if every single factory on Earth shuts down. It doesn't matter if we completely stop emitting CO2 the very next morning. You cannot restart a dead planetary heart. Once the engine stalls, the collapse is unstoppable and the damage is permanent. The authorities thought they had more time. They thought the devastating consequences would only hit future generations. But they were desperately wrong. The chain reaction has already been triggered, and the absolute epicenter of this unfolding chaos, the United States. While the public is looking away, unnatural amounts of water are quietly piling up against the East Coast, preparing to unleash a geographical nightmare of blinding blizzards and boiling super hurricanes that will crush any modern city caught in the crossfire. Right now, the United States East Coast is becoming the absolute epicenter of this collapse. Without the AMOC constantly pulling water to the north, all that massive ocean weight has to go somewhere. And it is stacking up against the American shoreline like a concrete wall. Imagine looking out the Atlantic and realizing the sea isn't just rising over decades. It is physically swelling, pressing against the coast with the weight of a mountain. The geographical contrast is mind-bending and deadly. Up in the Northeast, cities like New York and Boston are being buried alive. Without the warm tropical currents regulating the air, the temperature plummets, plunging millions into punishing, record-breaking blizzards. But down south, Florida is literally cooking. The trapped heat creates terrifying marine heat waves, feeding unprecedented super hurricanes that shatter every category scale we have. The authorities knew this devastating divide was coming, but they kept the machine running. So, if the sirens started blaring in your city tonight, what would you do? Would you pack your car and flee inland without looking back? Or would you stay, trusting that a wall of concrete could hold back the ocean? Be honest, and tell me your survival plan in the comments below, because the choice that millions of Americans make in that exact moment is going to seal their fate. And while you type your answer, the nightmare is already mutating. For a brief second, the rest of the world watches the American collapse and breathes a sigh of relief. They think the worst is isolated. They think they're safe, but they're dead wrong. This was just the first domino, and the next one is about to wipe out an entire continent. Watching the East Coast get swallowed, the human instinct is simple: run. Millions pack their cars, abandon the shorelines, and flee deep inland. They get away from the crashing waves, stand on dry dirt, and take a deep breath. For a brief, deceptive moment, they feel safe. They think the worst is over, but they are completely wrong. You cannot outrun a dying atmosphere. The ocean doesn't just hold water, it dictates the sky. When the AMOC finally chokes, the first global domino falls, and the devastation is absolute. Europe, stripped of its warm, tropical currents, is plunged into an inescapable deep freeze. And while the north shatters under the ice, the tropical rain belts drastically shift. Across the globe, the vital monsoon seasons simply fail to arrive. The rain stops, the rivers dry up. Within a matter of months, the entire global food chain fractures. Crops turn to dust. There is absolutely nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, and no amount of human engineering that can feed billions of starving people. But here's the most disturbing secret. We don't even have to wait for the final harvest to feel the pain. The invisible hands of this disaster are already tearing down the walls of the global economy, and the countdown to your financial ruin has secretly begun. While the physical world prepares to freeze and starve, a completely different kind of collapse is already happening right under your nose. The financial elite aren't waiting for the AMOC to officially die. They're already cashing out. There is a disturbing secret unfolding behind closed doors in the real estate market. Those spectacular, multi-million-dollar luxury mansions sitting right on the coast, in less than a decade, their value will be absolutely zero. And the people at the top know it. Secretly, massive insurance companies are systematically fleeing these high-risk areas. They aren't making loud public announcements or warning the citizens. They're simply pulling the plug, refusing to renew policies, and leaving normal homeowners completely exposed to the wrath of the ocean. But how do they know exactly when to run? They're using data from organizations like the First Street Foundation. Banks, investors, and Wall Street giants are secretly using these advanced risk models to perfectly predict exactly who is going to sink before a single drop of water even touches the ground. They are silently offloading their doomed properties onto an unsuspecting public, escaping with the profits, while the middle class is left holding a worthless, uninsurable nightmare. You might think that having all of this terrifying data would force the authorities to wake up, change course, and save the planet before it is too late. You might expect a massive, global effort to stop the clock. But this isn't a Hollywood movie. The reality of how this story actually ends is much, much darker. The Earth's beating heart isn't stopping overnight. It gave us decades of warnings. It sent melting ice, shifting currents, and screaming scientists. But in the ultimate showdown between corporate profit and human survival, the arrogance of the elite chose profit every single time. Now, the bill is finally due. Nature doesn't negotiate with stock markets, and it certainly doesn't care about the wealth of those who trigger its wrath. The implacable power of the ocean is simply taking back control, and human engineering is completely powerless to stop it. As the geography of our world is rewritten by force, a dark question remains. Do you think the billionaires secretly abandoning the coastlines will actually escape this global collapse? Or will the dying AMOC eventually swallow their inland empires too? Tell me exactly what you think in the comments below. If you want to survive the brutal truth and uncover more of the dark secrets they are hiding from you, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. The world is changing fast, and the next disaster is already unfolding.